pandemic rattled supply chains and led to a surge in demand for electronics when people were stuck at home. This shortage has affected whether you can drive a Jeep off the lot or buy a new PlayStation 5.
There's been lots and lots of research out there about the number of retailers that will exist post 2025. In my own mind, I've kind of always thought you'll see a reduction between 20 and 25%.
Petrol's dead, and so's diesel. That's the word from the UK government, who've just announced that sales of new petrol and diesel-powered vehicles is going to be outlawed from 2030. And that's not some funky EU law.
And now the world is running out of chips.
Hello everyone. As you just saw and are undoubtedly experiencing, our industry continues to experience huge disruption. Some expected and some that we could never have predicted. As we work through the uncertainty, we wanted to help to continue to provide you with meaningful insights that we hope will help you to, one, make the right strategic decisions and to achieve your business and marketing objectives. Two, provide you the insights you need to connect with prospective buyers. And three, give you a sense of some of the emerging trends that we're starting to see so that you can begin to plan accordingly. Of course, we would have loved to have done this in person in our offices. Alas, for reasons I'm sure you will all understand, we hope that you enjoy this particular format. If you have any questions throughout the presentations, feel free to use the chat functionality here. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you find it useful. Please do feedback. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Galtz. I work on the auto ads team here at Google. In this section, we're going to look at the role of the dealership in the buying cycle and how the industry can adapt as consumers increasingly turn to consider online purchase. The physical dealership continues to remain the critical point of sale. However, recent trends, mostly driven by COVID disruptions, have illustrated that trends to more online-based services have accelerated. In this section, we'll essentially cover 18% of new car buyers have identified to have purchased via online or via an app. The low number of visits and test drives limit the option for dealers to shine. Focus on relevant questions, financing vehicle options, and on avoidance of pressure and attempts to sell unwanted services. Thirdly, future purchases with more online elements. About 70% consider an online purchase for the next car. More than 70% want to compare cars online. And finally, in the transition to more e-commerce centric offering, dealers and OEM websites are expected to be transparent regarding delivery, vehicle options, and customer service. Before we get into the detail about the role of dealerships, it is important to understand the triggers for buyers. There are multiple triggers for both return and new buyers, and it's probably not a surprise that a specific life event tends to be the catalyst for first-time buyers. But one key area to flag this year are the mobility choices that people are choosing to make in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here, we see a significant shift among first-time buyers as they re-evaluate their mobility priorities. For reasons of personal health and safety, people are considering cars as their primary form of transport. Another area we looked at was audience profiles with regards to brand loyalists versus other groups, i.e. the people who bought with the same manufacturer as their previous owned car. There are two key points we want to highlight here. The majority of new car purchases, 56% in this case, are new customers to the brands. So this industry is fertile battleground for marketeers. Lots of opportunity to connect with customers in the messy middle while they're discovering and evaluating their shortlist. We know as an industry, new customer acquisition is key to business growth. We are also seeing an increase on 5 points year on year for first-time buyers, specifically coming into the market, as illustrated in our last points. Secondly, the biggest single category of customers are actually the loyalists, those who have previously owned your brand. And 5% of customers are also returning to the brand, having bought another brand previously. These are customers who you have the best existing relationship and the most data insights into their profiles. So growing the repeat customers or returning customers should be a cheaper, more cost-effective. The thing I like about this audience split and recognition is it's nearly 50-50. Roughly half the customers you know nothing about and half have bought with you before. So think about how you're using your first-party data, how you're speaking to these customers differently. It's a competitive advantage that will be essential to business success in a privacy-first world. In step changing with consumer behaviours to e-commerce-based buying, Auto has seen a significant change in new car buyers' propensity to purchase online, a short-term impact that will alter long-term behaviours. However, with the reopening of dealerships and the more normal business operations, there is still a strong consumer appetite to continue to purchase vehicles in person. There's two key points we want to make here. Firstly, businesses still have to cater for and manage an omnichannel customer experience, tracking both online and offline consumer actions to understand the full consumer journey. Secondly, manufacturers and dealers will continue to invest in their unique physical assets to provide frictionless experiences in order to bridge the online and offline journey. In this majority purchase scenario of research online, purchase offline, we see that new car buyers tend only to visit a single dealership. This is a trend that has been consistent for a number of years, affirming the virtual decision by the customer is being made online. The visit to the dealership will provide the opportunity to affirm that decision. However, there are still important factors and values a customer can gain from this visit to close the sale. Let's step back before the dealership visits and look at the actions taken by buyers that indicate intent to visit. As we can see from the graph above, there are multiple options a buyer can choose when contacting a dealer. 3 key points stand out from this data. Closures of dealerships at various points in recent times have impacted the ability for customers to walk into dealerships with no prior contact. However, at 51%, walk-ins are still the preferred option for the majority of car buyers. Secondly, online services and one-to-one online communication with customers have grown in importance. Phone calls, online chat, virtual meetings are now expected as standard services by customers from manufacturers and dealers online. And finally, a lot of emphasis in the industry historically is placed on customers to action online forms as a way to capture names, emails, addresses, and other personal information. However, a consistent data trend we see year in, year out is customers are less inclined to fulfill this type of lead form action. In fact, it is the least likely action a customer is likely to take. This final point illustrates the need for manufacturers and dealerships to really focus on their measurement principles. Online forms undeniably provide an event that indicates strong customer intent to go on to purchase. However, it compromises the ability to represent and understand the full customer journey. When thinking about a robust measurement foundation for lead generation, a much broader consideration of events and their variable impact on the sale needs to be considered. This is critical to be more representative of the omnichannel customer, understand the impact to sale, and most importantly, a critical component for automated-driven media solutions to optimize towards. Understanding the role of the dealer in the new car journey plays an important component in the omnichannel customer journey. We've seen that the majority of information and research can be gathered online. However, offline does not serve for all the needs and final advice on personal needs for a car's features, tweaking financing plans are all components that can be handled well by good old human dialogue at the dealership. Better understanding these needs and seamlessly serving the customer at this point in their journey will be key to closing the deal. However, when asked about what customers do not want to see or have less than ideal experiences, the usual suspects tend to show up. Two key highlights here. Make sure you seamlessly join the online and offline journey. In the scenario that a customer is visiting for a test drive, simply knowing the model they have requested, that you have it in stock, is a very easy win and a very simple scenario that we see play out for the negative more and more with dealerships. Make sure you coordinate both national and local communications, servicing the relevant information like driving directions when customers are at the point of visiting. Across all customer shopping experiences, customers want to know retailers have the items they want to buy are in stock. Online plays a critical role to inform the customers before they make a physical visit to the store. Auto is no exception to this rule, and surfacing real-time information on car availability, pricing and fulfillment are increasingly important online features which can influence the dealership and purchase choice. A business requirement that has been the mainstay for used cars previously, but is now increasingly transitioning over to expectations for new car customers. Test drives continue to play an important role in confirming the purchase decision. Car buyers continue to only undertake, on average, one test drive before a purchase. There's no complicated science behind the correlations between the dealership visit trends and test drives in this scenario. The ready-to-buy purchase process is still very complex. We see that during the upper funnel research phase, online takes on a lot of the heavy lifting. Unsurprisingly, as the customer gets closer to purchase, the dealership interaction becomes increasingly important. A successful omnichannel experience must be well designed and managed across multiple stakeholders that ultimately removes as much friction as possible for the customer. The past 18 months have seen fundamental change in consumers' expectations, especially with regards to online purchase and fulfillment. Now, we see over 70% of buyers would consider buying their next new car online. However, the option to pick up or have the car delivered in person, whether buying from a dealer or online, is not a mitigating factor in their decision to making the purchase. However, to provide the options for customers still makes good business sense for dealerships. When thinking about the full purchase journey, and as manufacturers and dealerships start to map the final buying steps to ultimately an online transaction, there are some key components that resonate best with car buyers. Interestingly, for new car buyers, information regarding production and delivery timelines is most important, a theme that will carry even more importance given the global supply issues we are seeing currently. Means to easily compare vehicles with clear and transparent financing details are also important components when prioritising feature and user experience when thinking about online purchase solutions.
Hi, I'm Ben Lewis, an industry manager in Google's automotive team. I'll be taking you through the first segment of the 2021 Gearshift report, focusing on the modern research journey. As Hamill's already discussed, we've seen massive disruption to the industry, and this disruption has filtered into the way that new car buyers are discovering, evaluating, and deciding on their next purchase. As I will outline in this segment, new car buyers are relying more than ever on digital to make their decision. We'll look into what are the most important actions you can take in order to increase awareness, consideration, and purchases. If you're going to take one thing away from this section, it's that new car buyers are building and evaluating their shortlist online. Our analysis found that 85% of discovery and 95% of research is now taking place online, with search and online video being the #1 destination for evaluation. The pandemic has driven new car buyers to change their research behaviours and conduct more online than ever before. Our search data shows that 2021 is the biggest year ever for automotive search, and this has been driven by new car buyers relying on the product heavily and the first-time buyer segment growing and over-indexing on every digital action. So what are the impacts we have seen? When looking at the time taken to make a purchase, we found that 55% of new car buyers spent less than 1 month between the start of researching and making a purchase decision. This is 6 percentage points faster than last year. The window of opportunity is getting smaller as consumers take advantage of easily accessible information and content. And what sources of information are they using? When we delve into the research period, we found that 90% used online sources. And on average, they would use 5.8 online information sources. This is over 2.5 times more than the offline sources used. So when we break down the online sources used, this is what it looks like. Search has near total coverage, influencing near on every purchase. This is a big jump since 2020, where we recorded 78%. And then following search, with the second highest rate is online video. Online video has seen moderate growth year on year with 1 percentage point. So when planning the platforms which will reach the most new car buyers, it's essential that search and online video is at the top of your list. Now looking at the average offline sources used. Actions taken at the dealership still lead the pack. However, there's been a 13% reduction in their influence year on year, as new car buyers are arriving at the dealer having conducted more research than ever before. Now breaking the purchase journey down into 3 stages: thinking, researching and buying, and looking at where information was obtained. Thinking aligns to the top of the funnel, the awareness stage of the buying process. Researching aligns to consideration, and buying is where users are researching availability, pricing and financing. We can see that search is the most valuable touchpoint across the car buying process and used at all stages. Manufacturer sites are an important source of information, and then the dealer visit comes into play at the very end of the journey. Looking at the other side, social media is the least used information source. Delving a little deeper into each stage of the journey, when we look into the make and model discovery, 85% took place online. This grew from 79% last year. And why is 95% of research taking place online? Because for new car buyers, it's easy and quick to obtain information online. 44% of those who used online sources did so because it's the preferred channel to expand, evaluate and refine their shortlist. New car buyers will use a variety of online tools when analysing their shortlist. But which ones have the most impact? Here we've broken down the online tools into 3 segments: standard, AR/VR and advanced tools. Looking at the standard set, car configurations are still number 1 and the most used tool across the board. Are car configurations an action that you value enough? Big year-on-year movement can be seen in the AR/VR and in the advanced tools. In AR/VR, we've seen growth year-on-year with virtual showrooms seeing the biggest increase. While within the advanced tools, although they have the lowest base, voice search have had the biggest growth year-on-year overall. Moving away from search and manufacturer websites, I'll finish by looking at how online video influences new car buying decisions. When we look at online video as a decision-making tool, specifically YouTube, we can see it plays an important role in the expansion and evaluation of the shortlist. However, YouTube's ability to introduce buyers to a manufacturer they had not previously considered saw the greatest year-on-year increase, up to 26%. And online video drives action. 77% of those who used online video went on to perform a lower funnel action. And this trend is especially true for first-time buyers, where the ability to drive action is 35% greater. Here we've broken down the type of content that car buyers want. OEM-produced videos is still the number 1 source, but our number 2 spot has changed. YouTube creators are now the second most sought out channel type, increasing 29 percentage points year on year. Buyers prefer the organic style of YouTube creators over the highly produced and polished professional review. So OEM-produced video content is what the majority of the UK car buyers are looking for. But what type of content should you invest in? Real-life impression is valued most. Here they are trying to fill in the gaps that was previously only possible with a dealer visit. They want to see the car from every angle, understand the tech and be talked through the performance. This allows them to gather as much information as possible and reduce the shortlist prior to dealer visits. Finally, as discussed earlier, YouTube content over-indexes with first-time buyers. We can reach this audience on YouTube even when they are not actively researching. For example, 77% of first-time buyers stumble upon and watch relevant auto content whilst using YouTube for entertainment. So wrapping this section up, in recap, 85% of discovery and 95% of research is now taking place online, with search and online video being the key destinations for evaluation. We've seen growth in online influence and decline in offline influence, resulting in a shorter window of opportunity, and 70% of new car buyers use online video, with manufactured content being their number one destination. So what will you be creating next?
Hi, I'm Gavin, and I'm going to talk about the conundrum that is driving adoption and sales for electric and hybrid cars. We know the segment is growing, however there are still roadblocks for would-be buyers in the path to purchase. Only 45% of those considering an EV at the start of their research journey went on to actually buy an EV. Low emissions and the positive impact on the environment are key reasons for considering an electric or plug-in hybrid car. However, there's still anxiety around range and charging points, which are acting as blockers. This really is the era of electric. We're at an inflection point, with substantial growth anticipated in just 5 years. Yes, this will be dominated by hybrid in the short to medium term, but last year saw the biggest annual increase in the number of EV registrations. There were 175,000 electric vehicles registered, resulting in a growth of 66% versus 2019. Despite the pandemic, 2020 was a huge growth year for plug-in vehicles, and this is set to continue. So whilst 2021 looks modest on the chart versus 2025, these growth numbers are substantial. We are at an inflection point, and quite a competitive one at that. Before now, legislation was outpacing consumer desire. We've seen sweeping legislation with punchy milestones, which was definitely not in line with consumer demand. However, what we're seeing in our search data, a great indicator of consumer sentiment and intent, is that regulation interest around EV is growing, up by 149% actually since last year. That, excuse the pun, is a definitive gear shift. In fact, versus all other European markets, the UK consumer is most incentivized by government regulation when it comes to purchase of their next car. And with such ambitious change and incentives, the opportunity is growing, which is reflected in the sales forecast mentioned earlier. The role of the regulator in today's EV landscape cannot be overstated. Ever-tightening government emission regulations act as a direct stimuli for OEM EV investment. Plus, the incentives and tax exemptions help bridge gaps between OEM pricing and consumer willingness to pay. We can see the foundations for EV adoption taking shape. However, there's still a way to go. The factors discussed are certainly intriguing to would-be car buyers, which is evidenced with the growth in consideration for buying an EV or hybrid as their next car. However, there are still roadblocks which are stopping the sales getting over the line. In our survey, we asked car buyers about the different fuel types they were considering and compared responses to the cars they ended up purchasing. 22% of car buyers considered an EV or hybrid at the beginning of their research journey. However, less than half of them went on to actually buy one. There are fundamental blockers that erode customer intent for EV during the research process. Understanding what the roadblocks are and how to mitigate against them is key for growing sales and share in this segment. So what are the blockers? Car price and anxiety around charging availability remain the primary reasons for not considering EVs and plug-in hybrids. A massive 64% of would-be car buyers are still concerned about range. There are reservations around battery size, lack of nearby charging stations, and interestingly, the concept of forward planning to account for the need to charge up on longer journeys is a big worry. The idea of electric cars is still a step in the unknown for some buyers, with 54% choosing not to consider them at all due to distrust around the technology. Although there is certainly value gained on running costs, the upfront price continues to be a barrier for shoppers, with 37% of the opinion that buying EV is simply too expensive. 24% are not interested in the segment at all. However, with the other 76% voicing range anxiety, distrust in tech and price, there is an opportunity to change mindsets. So what are the positives? Why are people considering and buying these cars? The positive impact on the environment is the top reason for EV consideration, with 73% of those surveyed stating this as their primary factor. This is very interesting, as back in 2019, when this question was presented to car buyers, the benefits and incentives were the most popular reasons for considering to buy in this segment. Benefits are still popular and they're in second place, with 58% of the vote stating that as the reason for considering an EV. It's indicative of the growing range of EVs and hybrids available in the market that some of the more traditional reasons to buy, like performance, image, the drive and functionality, are also featuring as influential factors. In addition, our data signals are also demonstrating real intent in the category. For example, we see considerable growth for the search query, charging points near me. 157% query growth in 2020 versus 2019. A further 133% query growth in 2021 versus 2020. What we did find particularly interesting is the use of the word near me. This highlights the personal motivation behind the query. It is not a generic how many charging points are there in the UK. They're working out how the decision to buy an EV may impact them personally. With digital playing such a central role to the car research process, we have seen that the path to purchase timeframe has been reducing year on year. 55% of new car buyers are spending less than a month from research to purchase. However, only 38% of EV and hybrid buyers are getting to the purchase phase within that timeframe. The majority are taking longer, which highlights the need for more information and I dare say further reassurance for buying a car in this segment. This point is extended when you look into the information sources being utilised to aid the research process. Buyers who are considering an EV or hybrid vehicle use more online sources than new car buyer researching a more traditional segment and fuel type. EV buyers are using on average 8 different online sources for information to aid their decision, whereas only 5 are utilised for the more established segments. What online sources are used to inform an EV purchase decision is also a differentiator to traditional car research journeys. 37% have stated the OEM and brand websites as being a primary source for gathering information. It means that the role of the website is huge and carries a lot of influence, not only about the car on offer, but around the segment in general. Thinking about the barriers of entry stated earlier, such as range anxiety, the brand website is a strong platform to help reframe the message and change mindsets. EV and hybrid researchers are still getting to grips with not only the segment, but the range of cars on offer. So it isn't a surprise that buyers in this segment consider more cars than average as part of their research process. EV and hybrid buyers on average consider 4 cars versus the standard 3 for traditional new car buyers. The car segment preference mirrors what we see within the rest of the market, with SUVs as the most popular. However, there is a greater skew in popularity for SUV versus other segments with EV and hybrid considerers. In terms of brand preference, EV considerers show a higher preference towards premium brands. This, to some degree, correlates with the earlier data point demonstrating the customer mindset of EVs being more expensive than traditional fuel types. That being said, other brands are breaking into the consideration set with specific strategies, from promoting legacy credentials in the segment to offering EV and hybrid options for their existing range. The current leaderboard is distinctive, but by no means is set. There is still a lot of share to play for.
Picture the scene. You're in a nice, cool, air-conditioned dealership looking around at your customers. You spot one looking at your EV lineup. You recently committed to driving the green agenda, so you decide to walk over to strike up a chat. One makes eye contact and smiles at you, so that's your cue to walk over. But suddenly, panic creeps in. You know that they've done a ton of research before they've even walked through those doors. Is this their first visit or their 5th dealer visit? And are they genuinely interested, or are they just checking out the latest tech? And most importantly, what can you tell them that they don't already know? I'm Riz Patel, and in this segment, I'm going to help you understand the main differences between premium and volume car buyers, so you can tailor your message to these different audiences. So what is a premium new car buyer, and how do they differ from volume buyers? Our research has shown us 3 key ways in which they differ. Firstly, premium car buyers consider a lot more segments and models than volume buyers. This is especially true when it comes to sports cars, coupes and convertibles. On average, they have a larger consideration set than volume buyers, so it should come as no surprise that they're doing more research and they're doing it for longer. Half of premium buyers spend over a month researching, whereas volume buyers will make the decision a lot sooner. So where are they doing this research and how? That leads me to my second point. Premium car buyers use more sources of info to get the inside track. They visit more dealerships and they take more test drives. They expect car makers and dealers to be transparent about the options and make the info easy to find. After all, let's not forget the competition is only a click away, or in some cases, next door. When we deep dive into online resources, on average, they'll use 7 sources versus volume's 5 when researching a new car. In every case, search was used. Online video is the second highest source, used 82% of the time. And what was the number 1 video source? You guessed it, YouTube. Half of premium buyers will use this for their online video research, so how strong is your strategy in this space? Now we know premium buyers are considering more models and we know they're big researchers, but what are they researching? What do they really care about? And that leads me to my third and final point. This audience cares about making an impact, image and performance. And what's the hot topic right now? Like literally, climate change and the shift we need to make now. Premium buyers understand this. It aligns with their impact and image goals, making EVs part of their consideration set. Our research has shown that premium car buyers are twice as likely to consider an electric or hybrid drive. And even more interestingly, they are 5 times more likely to actually make that purchase. So it's a high converting audience. Here's the interesting question then. If they have the means and the motivation, why aren't we seeing more sales? Well, range anxiety is real. Think about it. How do you feel when your phone's battery is at 10%? Now imagine you're far from home, your car is the only way you're going to get back. You're low on juice and you don't know what the local charging facilities are like nearby. Are you feeling anxious? The other thing that really concerns premium car buyers is the newness. How reliable is the tech and is it here to stay? Thankfully, with the investments the big car makers are making in electric vehicles and the understanding of the climate crisis, this is the era of electric. So, to recap on the key takeaways, premium car buyers consider a lot more models, do a lot more research, and they do it for longer. They research deeply, with search and video being the top online sources. And they care about impact, image, and performance, but have real concerns about range, charging, and the tech newness. These are the 3 main differences we're seeing in 2021 between premium and volume car buyers. Thank you for listening, and I'll pass you back to Hamel for the closeout.
So if you're still with us, thank you for watching, and we hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Ben Lewis, Ben Galt, Riz or Gav. We'll of course share all the material with you, but for now, thank you, stay safe, and we hope to see you in person soon.